From news and views, issues and opportunities, we'll have in-depth conversations with decision makers to find out what they know and what they think. I'm Rico Hizon, inviting you to join us for this first year anniversary edition of The Exchange, because your business is our business. From one bad news after another.
Our kababayans will also experience a lot of scrutiny.
Now an international debt watcher sees more risks in the bumpy road ahead. The country's coffers are dwindling and debt is piling up as the government shores up funds for its pandemic response. How to avoid sinking deeper into crisis. The coronavirus has left deep economic scars. What could be done to help businesses and millions of our kababayans struggling to survive? And the Philippine peso plunges to its lowest level in a year. Who gains and who loses? Making sense of the foreign exchange market in our C-Suite Vision. The country's investment-grade status is at risk as debt soars and the economy remains weak. Fitch Ratings downgraded its outlook for the Philippines from stable to negative. Let's now have an exchange with Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez. Sekmon, maraming salamat for joining us. The economy continues to be in a slump, mahigit ng isang taon, which is one of the reasons for this outlook downgrade from Fitch Ratings. Tuloy-tuloy na po ba ang pagbaba ng ating ekonomiya?
Oh, no, definitely that's not true, Rico. Yung assessment ng Fitch, I suppose, is they're looking really just at the macro so far where we are, and given still the threat of the virus, the Delta threat is still there, but definitely when Fitch looks into the Philippine economy, they also consider, and from what we heard from them, they also consider all these bright spots that are being seen right now. No? I think it's very obvious during the time that they did the report, they've seen exports really rebounded. They've seen investments, the FDI especially, posting triple-digit growth. Manufacturing indices, they're up beyond the threshold of 50. Even the volume of production index, 162% growth. And many, practically all indicators are going up. Even the exports that went up by 72%, it's even higher than the 2019 pre-pandemic. Right. So it's not just because of the low base of 2020.
So Sekmon, Sekmon, I'd just like to jump in. Are you saying then that the economy in the second and third quarters has already turned the corner? Giginhawa na ang buhay ng ating mga kababayan?
Opo, we are really, hintayin natin itong resulta ng second quarter. Dun sa first quarter, if you will remember, -4%, that's an improvement, a lesser negative, a lower negative growth rate. But we expect the positive growth to take place and to start this second quarter and into the third and fourth quarter. As we are seeing all these indicators, ang very critical dito is that we don't really experience again itong mga surge, this threat of the Delta, the Delta variant. Hindi na sana hindi mangyari dito sa Pilipinas to the extent na ng mga nangyari sa mga tabing bansa natin. Kaya importante po yun. So that the kind of recovery we're seeing now will continue till the end of the year and into the following years.
So Secretary Mon, are we going to have a merrier 2021 Christmas compared to 2020 and a better 2022?
Yes. Ang kolatido doon, wag lang magkaroon ng surge na malala.
Okay.
I mean, if we just keep this where we are right now, kaya very careful itong reopening natin. If you notice, 10% lang ang ating mga adjustments sa pag-reopen ng mga operating capacity. Very careful despite the fact na nagro-roll out tayo ng vaccine. And dito naman sa vaccination rollout, we expect naman that to be on track and that before the end of the year, maabot natin yung malaking population protection or herd immunity. And with that, it gives us greater confidence, even confidence to the investing sector, that the Philippines is well on its way towards recovery. And so first, the growth, we expect all the production sectors to be back on the growth path, and that will pull up the GDP this second, third, and fourth quarter, and hopefully a Merry Christmas.
But Secmon, it's not only the outlook downgrade, no? We are also now in the money laundering gray list. And marami ang nagsasabi, kung hindi tayo makakaalis sa gray list na ito, mas mahihirapan magpadala ang ating mga OFWs ng pera to their loved ones due to the higher remittance charges. And every remittance of every OFW will be scrutinized.
Well, yan naman, kaya naman tayo nasa gray list. Ibig sabihin lang nito, meron pa tayong mga programa na mga ginagawa at kailangan ma-monitor at kailangan ma-implement mabuti para talaga ma-release tayo dito sa listahan na to. So it's a work in progress yan. Kita naman natin din yung maraming improvements na nangyayari at yung pag-iingat and the controls that are being implemented in the banking sector, being led of course by the BSP. So ano yan, ibig sabihin yan ay maraming pang kailangang gawin dyan para talagang mawala tayo sa listahan na yan.
Okay, you mentioned despite these negative factors, no, pumapasok ang mga foreign investments. Pero Secmon, won't other foreign investors also think twice na sasabihin nila, so many red flags in doing business in the Philippines? How are you trying to improve the ease of doing business for foreign investors during this pandemic?
Well, during this pandemic, aside continuing naman yung ating programa to streamline, to automate, meron na tayong central business portal, yung ating customs procedure, inano na rin, nilalagay na rin sa online para talagang mapadali yung pagkuha ng mga import permit, isinasama dito sa ating tinatawag na TradeNet para again online na lahat and integrated. So these are programs that are being undertaken para talaga mapadali yung business, from business permit na napapaiksi na natin, na streamline and na automate. Meron na ngang central business portal at meron din tayong regulatory relief committee kung saan some permits that may be needed by big projects or of national significance, pwedeng mabigyan or ma-waive mabigyan ng waiver yung mga permit na kakailanganin nila basta hindi environment related.
Thank you so much for this trade and investment exchange, Secretary Ramon Lopez.
Thank you.
From the country's finances to your own, let's do a personal finance check. How are you managing your money to make sure you pay your bills and debts on time? We'll leave a comment on our social media pages and I will read your responses later in the program. And now here's a rundown of the week's top business stories. Companies are urging the Bureau of Internal Revenue to repeal the 12% value-added tax on exported products. They warn implementing the VAT bill will make it harder for industries to recover and turn away new investors. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas says foreign direct investments more than doubled to $679 million in April compared to last year on the back of positive investor sentiment. And Microsoft will buy cybersecurity firm RiskIQ to help companies better protect themselves following a wave of ransomware and cyber attacks. And straight ahead on the exchange, where your business is our business, an admission from the Social Welfare Department about the cash aid or ayuda for our kababayans. And Barbie gets sporty in a new lineup honoring role models. Keep it right here on CNN Philippines. News you can use. News you can trust.
Gusto ko magpabakuna. Pero walang lumaano sa amin, walang dumadating eh. Gusto sana namin, bye-bye na lang sila.
Gusto ko lang po marinig sa mga lahat ng presidente, yung mga pinapangako nila dapat to pa rin po.
Siyempre, gusto ko marinig yung pagbabago. Ha? Saka magandang sasabihin niya. Mga tungkol sa mga taong Pilipino.
Glad you're staying with us right here on The Exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. The Social Welfare Department admits the cash aid given to our kababayans, or the ayudas, last year was not enough. Secretary Rolando Bautista said he is counting on the proposed Bayanihan 3 bill as restrictions continue to stand in the way of jobs and profitability.
The problem of pandemic will escalate until 2022. So kailangan talaga meron tayong pangbigay, no?
The latest social weather station survey revealed at least 4.2 million families experienced involuntary hunger over the past 3 months. The government aims to cut that number by half. Fitch Ratings sees a negative outlook on the Philippines' credit standing. What does this mean to Filipinos? Let's now have an exchange with Nicolas Mapa, senior economist from the ING Bank. Nicolas, thank you so much for joining us. Well, so many factors are going against us right now. The outlook downgrade to the money laundering gray list. What impact does this have on you and me and our fellow kababayans who continue to suffer under the weight of this pandemic?
Yeah, unfortunately, Rico, as you noted, yung Fitch downgrade, usually people are saying, wala naman impact yan sa Filipinos. It has no impact on Filipinos. But the money that we save on interest payments goes a long way, and all that money could have been used for ayuda is one, or it could have been used for other programs that would be beneficial to us. So we continue to struggle in this pandemic. Unemployment is still very high, and consumer sentiment is still down because business activity isn't kicking up as much as we wanted it to.
All right, a lot of people do not know that we are still in an investment grade status. That means we can borrow money from lenders more cheaply. Is there a possibility, though, with all of these negative factors, that we could fall below investment grade? Or that's not a possibility at all?
Well, Rico, the good thing is that we're at least 1 or 2 notches above investment grade. So I think I actually flagged the possibility of a downgrade by the end of the year if our deficit continues to swell and if our debt continues to pile up. But the actual falling below the investment grade level might take a lot to get there. But a downgrade 1 notch lower is a possibility by the year end.
Wow, that could be a reality. So the cost of money will definitely go up. Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez, Nicolas, sinabi niya ito about the current state of the economy. Although the negative impact of the pandemic on the Philippines has been significant, this will only be temporary. In fact, the economy is already en route to a solid recovery path and is seen to have posted double-digit growth in the second quarter. But these numbers, of course, haven't come out yet amid the fast-track implementation of the vaccine rollout and the economic recovery measures. Nicolas, is the economy, in your view, still in trouble when others paint a rosy picture of a turnaround?
I mean, I understand that there's a need to sort of keep our spirits up. However, I think the double-digit growth that he's expecting in the second quarter, if you think about it, it comes on the back of last year's negative 16.9% GDP. So we're just going to be sort of, that's the mirror image of that really bad performance we had last year. So the rest of the year, I see us still struggling, still very far from our potential. And we only get back to 2019 levels of growth by the end of 2022. So we have a long way to go before we get back to where we were before the pandemic.
And for most of the kababayans who are watching right now on the exchange, what is important to them is putting food on the table and getting a job. Are we already seeing a turnaround in terms of the job market from now until the end of the year? According to Secretary Mon Lopez, who we spoke to earlier, it could be a merrier 2021 Christmas. But of course, there are also a lot of things that we have to take into consider, particularly the new variants like the Delta or the Delta Plus or maybe the Lambda.
Yeah, we just recorded a community transmission of the Delta variant the Delta variant. And as we know, our ASEAN neighbors are really sort of crushed under the weight of this very transmissible variant. So we have to be still very vigilant and try to make sure that it doesn't spread here. On the jobs front, our unemployment numbers are improving from the really bad levels that we saw at the height of the pandemic, but it's still very far at 7.7% is still much higher than the 5.4% average that we had prior to the pandemic. On top of that, Rico, I wanted to point out that a lot of these jobs that are being created are low-paying jobs or low-skilled jobs. So in the past, maybe you had a higher-paying salary, but because of the pandemic, you have to take a pay cut or work less hours. So we're not bringing in the type of income that we're used to. Merrier, I guess, compared to last year, but nothing close to 2019.
Still very tough and challenging times for many of our kababayans. So, Nicholas, what else needs to be done in terms of economic reforms in the final year of President Duterte's administration?
Well, actually, yeah, there's a lot of talk of his final year. I just settled for him getting the economic ship righted and up and running again. Currently, we're lagging the rest of the region, and that would be a good place to start. Just getting us back on our feet, ensuring that growth is sustainable, and I think that's a good way to finish off his presidency.
There are some congressmen who are pushing for the so-called Pogo tax and the e-sabong tax, and more taxes in the comprehensive tax reform system. Do you think that this will help in revenue generation, and will it be passed in the final year of Duterte's presidency?
Yeah, I think the government is very cash-strapped as of the moment. Their deficit is more than 9% of GDP, and their debt-to-GDP ratio is more than 60%. So they're looking for getting very creative and finding ways to push up their revenues. And I think these measures will be, if they can pass those measures before the end of this term, then that will be beneficial for our ability to generate revenues at a time where we really need it to shore up our fiscal spending.
Thank you so much for this economic exchange. Nicolas Mapa, senior economist from Dutch Bank ING. From the country's finances to managing your own. Earlier, we asked you, how are you managing your money to make sure you pay your bills and debts or utang on time? Well, Alexander Pierce said on Facebook, prioritize needs over wants. Benom Avranim said, regulate the bills and the debts. A.H. Lone Wolf said, frugality is the key. While Bradley Turvey says, although we have extra money to pay for debts, we would rather hold it out due to uncertainty. Well, we'd like to thank you for sharing your thoughts with us right here on The Exchange, joining the discussion on our official social media pages. And straight ahead on the program, where your business is our business, the Philippine peso plunging to its lowest level in a year. Who gains and who loses? Plus, a toy giant wants to remind young girls that they can make a difference in the world. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines. News you can use, news you can trust. I'm so glad you're staying with us right here on The Exchange, where your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. Overseas Filipinos sent home more money in May. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas said remittances hit $2.6 billion. That's 13.3% higher from last year. Money from land-based overseas Filipinos with contracts lasting at least a year had the biggest share in all transactions. The threat of a credit rating downgrade has shocked local markets and further weakened the Philippine peso against the US dollar. How are the import and export markets holding up? Let's now have an exchange with Sergio Ortiz Luis, President of the Philippine Exporters Confederation. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Are Filipino exporters concerned about this outlook downgrade from Fitch Ratings?
Well, exporters do not really too much about the local market. our connection is with the international market. So long as it does not affect credits, we're okay. We don't worry about it too much.
But doesn't this outlook downgrade and a potential downgrade in the rating increase the cost of money for Filipinos?
Well, for exporters, the effect really was the weakening of the peso, and that is for exporters. With all the problems that we have in the pandemic and other regulatory problems like the VAT that is being charged now to exporters, a little relief comes from the weakening of the peso.
You mentioned about this value-added tax being charged to exporters. What is the current status right now? Will that be withdrawn?
We are supposed to be meeting with them, with NEDA and the DOF, with many of the exporters, because as I mentioned, with the problems that we have now, exporters are really running after cash. No, banks are not really that easy to borrow from now, and it's expensive. And the biggest problem really now that people are not aware of is the lack of bottoms for the ships. Many exporters cannot ship their products for the last 2-3 months, and the cost of shipment has minimum is 3 times the usual, and the broker's fee, and sometimes 5 times usual. There are products. I just was talking to somebody that the total value of the container that he is sending is about $35,000. The total charges, including brokerage fees, about $18,000. Can you imagine that? So, and you have to pay in advance. And that is why one of the things that the exporters are asking for the government is a quick react loan, so that shipping cost, which is being charged upfront and 4 or 5 times the usual, they can borrow immediately. Otherwise, they will lose the ships that are flying them. But over and on top of that, the nail that is shutting the coffin is the VAT. These are money of exporter that is supposed to be returned, and because of technical problem, they want to collect it. This is 12%. Add to the problem of the exporters on their cash flow.
So the government definitely has to work with the exporters for our products to remain competitive overseas. But of course, on the other hand, sir, the government also has to implement this value-added tax for the additional revenues. Because right now, tax collection has been low due to the pandemic.
This VAT that is being charged to exporter are supposed to be given back. And we don't see the logic why, if it's the money of the exporters, why do they have to collect it and ask exporter to go to the trouble of claiming it when you know very well that you are not giving money to the exporters now when they need it much, and you want to collect 12% of their VAT from them, which will we don't know how long they will be able to get back. Many exporters will probably, who are on the verge of deciding whether they will continue or not, will probably stop. A lot of people already, because of this, have laid off their workers, and a lot of suppliers, the basic suppliers, are complaining already because the exporters are not buying.
What are the chances then, sir, of the government, the Bureau of Internal Revenue, repealing this value-added tax for exporters?
It's already a law, but there is a conflict between two laws regarding how you will apply the VAT. In the later law, the CREATE, it says that there should be 3 conditions before they can impose this VAT. No? And I think one of the conditions is that no pending claims on VAT must be there from 2017 to 2019. And I think there's a lot that is not being paid. So there is a way out for us. I think if DOF wants to really study it better, and to help out, maybe we can just keep it there as it is, not implement it while the conditions are being fulfilled.
Thank you so much for this export exchange. Sergio Ortiz Luis, President of the Philippine Exporters Confederation. A toy giant is sending a message of hope through a doll. Mattel launched a Barbie version of Naomi Osaka wearing the outfit she wore when she won the 2020 Australian Open. The world's top female tennis player hopes the doll will remind young girls that anything is possible. Carlisle Nuera, the Filipino behind the design, commends Osaka for using her platform to help raise awareness for mental health. As we celebrate the first year of the exchange, the past 12 months have been marked by challenges. And through all this, we've been making sense of the ups and downs of the business cycle through insightful exchanges with decision makers and industry leaders. We shared with you stories of how businesses, big or small, pivoted to adapt to the changing times. Together, we learned that in a crisis like no other, agility and resiliency are more important than ever. Thank you so much for joining us in navigating the evolving world of business and finance every week. We will continue making sense of the facts and the figures because your business is our business. I'm Rico Hizon. This is CNN Philippines. News you can use. News you can trust.